Welcome to Crime Most French, a fortnightly podcast covering intriguing cases carried out on French soil. Researched and narrated by Cedric and rudely interrupted by me, Melanie. We're the true crime podcast All the Lions. Crack open le vin and let the mayhem commence.
This is episode 57, the Geronimo affair. Tommy Recco, aka Geronimo, if you go to the website and check the photos you'll know why, is very unlucky. He tends to be surrounded by murders. This is an affair that takes 20 years to be resolved.
What kind of time are we looking at?
We're talking 60s to 80s.
No, right, okay. So a time where you should be able to keep away from that kind of thing.
Yes.
Right.
On the 20th of October 1960, Joseph Casablanca, the maritime guard in Propriano, in Corsica, it's a small town on the coast, is found dead on the beach.
Is this, are all the names going to sound Italian? Are we all just...
No, that's the only place.
Oh, right, okay.
We hear about. He appeared to have been shot and then had his head crushed with a 30-kilo rock.
Wow.
So big rock. Obviously someone didn't want him to make it. At the time, Propriano wasn't the touristy place that it is today, so a lot of the activity would have been fishing, and that's why they had a maritime guard who was essentially keeping track of who was doing what, because you couldn't do whatever you wanted, you needed licenses and whatever.
Yeah, is this kind of like something where they would work at a port and keep an eye on
But
stuff?
they would also keep an eye on the coast because there would be smuggling,
yes,
and there would be lots of things, so that's his role essentially.
Yeah, a lot of stuff coming from North Africa and...
It probably would have been Italy at the time more than North Africa. Mainly because Italy was way poorer and everything was cheaper than in France. So they would go from Italy to Sardinia, then to Corsica, then to France, most likely. But anyway, that's his role, and obviously somebody wasn't too happy about it, or we can assume. The police doesn't have much to go on. The only clue they find is bits of green-painted wood near the body. So shards of wood that are green painted.
Right. They
think that it comes from a rifle and probably from the one that's been used to shoot Joseph.
Do people paint their rifles? Apparently,
so it's something people do. I don't know, but in that case it was yes.
Okay.
And then that would have been used to hit him on the head, which probably was the reason why it broke.
Yes,
That was before the rock, obviously. He obviously didn't die from the shot and then being hit on the head by the gun, so they used a big rock.
So we're talking 3...
Yes.
3 strikes and he certainly was out,
yeah.
Poor guy.
So they think that's what it is, but they have absolutely no clue who's the owner of the rifle. With a bit of luck, they hear about rumors going around the village. Some people say that Tommy Recco, 26 years old at the time, is not completely a stranger to what's been happening. Also, it happens that Joseph is Tommy's godfather.
Right.
So they arrest him and interrogate him. He denies any part in the murder of his godfather. Tommy's mother, who's lost a son to a car accident and a newborn baby fairly recently, organized the family's defense around Tommy. So they essentially protect him and they do everything they can to make him released, I guess.
So he was a bit of a tearaway and he wasn't even blood related to this.
No, he was
harbour guard.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. That sounds a bit tenuous.
Yes. So the whole family makes sure that he's seen as innocent and they protect him from the police. So the police really has a hard time getting anywhere. Remember, it's Corsica, so you can essentially think of Italy's mafia. Same thing.
People close ranks very fast and you don't talk.
Yes, it's exactly the same thing. And if somebody's going to talk, there's going to be threats and possibly dead horses or whatever. So
my horse's head in your bed.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So most people wouldn't talk.
Sleeping with fishes, etc., etc.
Yeah. So having nothing to look into and having no leads, they run out of everything, clues, witnesses, whatever.
Right.
So the inquiry stalls.
Yes, it's not hugely surprising.
Yeah. At the end of November 1960, Pierre, Tommy's brother, little brother,
Okay.
goes to the police station. He says that on the morning of the murder, when he was out fishing with his brother, they got caught fishing with dynamite, which is apparently a thing that was done at the time, but was very illegal, by Joseph, who spotted them from the beach. So they were on the boat, fishing with dynamite, and Joseph spotted them and probably shouted at them from the beach. Because that was his role, to find those people.
I don't think I can knit my brow any, but really people...
I've heard of people doing it in the
dynamite.
US, in lakes and stuff. I've never heard of people doing it here, and certainly not in the sea, but apparently it's a thing that people did.
It sounds like something Homer Simpson would do.
Yeah.
It just sounds utterly cartoon-like.
Yeah, oh, totally. It sounds crazy, but it seems to have been done. So they were caught by Joseph doing it, and not only it was illegal, but they didn't even have a fishing license. So it was poaching as well.
Okay.
So when Joseph found them, Tommy went to the beach where Joseph was, and Pierre recalls hearing screams as he stayed in the boat.
Right, okay.
When his brother came back, he was covered in blood and threw away his rifle in the sea.
Okay, well, that sounds like there now is a bit of a case to answer here.
Yes. Pierre asked Tommy at the time what happened, and Tommy refused to provide any explanation. Obviously, that kind of went round his head for a while until he decided he had to talk to someone.
His conscience was gnawing at him.
Yeah. The police arrests Tommy again and interrogate him again. At first, he denies everything again, but eventually, after many hours of questioning, he confesses. When he was caught by Joseph, he feared getting a fine for illegal activities. So he went to the beach and shot Joseph, because that's what you do. He had a rifle at the time, so they were fishing with dynamite with a rifle in the boat, apparently.
That's a very unorthodox.
Maybe they were planning to shoot the fish. I don't know. It was also him that crushed his head with a stone to be sure that he was dead.
Mm-hmm.
Tommy's sent to jail, pending trial.
Right.
And as soon as he gets there, he retracts his confession.
Oh, right, of course.
And he says he's innocent.
That's amazing how full the penal system is just like packed to the gunnels with innocent people.
Yes. The trial takes place from the 4th to the 8th of December 1962.
Okay, that's quite short, 4 days.
2 years later. Two years later, because
yes,
it was
but
60.
the trial takes 4 days.
Yeah. Tommy's sentenced to life in prison.
Right.
End of story.
Okay, so that's a really short podcast.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, folks.
During his time in prison, Tommy learns of a few deaths in his family. For example, one of his brothers, Ernest Toussaint, is killed on the 29th of April 1973 at 42. He was killed by his brother-in-law, and nobody knows really why, but there's talks of disagreement about something.
Mm-hmm.
3 years later, his brother Pierre, remember, who went to the police station?
The rat, yes.
Yep. Is killed by two masked men on the 5th of November 1976. 10 days before he was 33.
That's a dangerous family.
I told you, it's just mafia. It's the same as the mafia.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's definitely Don Corleone territory.
Oh, yeah.
Not going to be using any real Italian family names.
So he was shot as he was anchoring his boat coming back from fishing. If it had been a bit closer to Tommy's arrest, I would have thought that, oh, okay.
Yeah, had something to do.
He organized something from prison. But we're talking many, many years later. We're talking like 14 years later or something.
Yeah, that's a long time to sit on a grudge.
It's also a long time to wait.
Yes.
So holding a grudge, yes, but you don't wait 14 years before you do anything about it. You just do something very quickly. So
he's either got a really long fuse or he's got nothing to do with it.
Yeah. No, he's not taken. That idea is not taken very seriously by the police. Then one of his sisters, Francine, the wife of Toussaint, who died a few years earlier, falls mysteriously down the stairs and dies on the spot.
Oh my God.
Nobody can explain what happened there.
I'd be changing my surname and moving if I was in that family.
Yeah, so in total, that's 5 Recco kids dead and 1 in prison for murder.
Wow.
People start talking about a curse.
Yes, okay.
And there's a whole story about the curse, why there is a curse.
I don't think there's a curse. I think there's people murdering other people. I don't think it's a curse.
Yeah. Independently of all that, Tommy is freed on parole on the 7th of November 1977. So he spends 15 years or so in prison.
That seems a bit light for something so violent.
Yeah, he's freed for good behavior. 15 years is pretty much what you would get for murder. So it's not far off. It's not.
Well, I guess it wasn't premeditated and it was done in the heat of the moment. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he essentially got something like 17 years to life and got out as soon as he could.
Yeah.
When he's freed, he's not allowed to live in Corsica.
Right.
He's told, you're not going back to your family in Corsica.
No.
So he moves to Marseille, to the assistant coast on the Mediterranean.
Yeah, because Marseille is squeaky clean. There's
nothing
dodgy about
Marseille
at all.
No. Mafia activities. No,
not at all.
Yeah. So he starts a new life there. He works as a delivery boy. You got to do what you got to do to quote try.
Yep.
He works for a shop selling diving equipment. So he delivers diving equipment to people who bought it.
Right.
In his new life, he's appreciated by people who know him.
Mm-hmm.
His employer finds him a good and reliable employee. His colleagues don't have anything bad to say about him. He's essentially a model of prison success.
Excellent.
He was caught, he was sent to prison, and he's now a good citizen.
Oh, well. So that's the end of the podcast. Thanks for joining us. No. Okay, right.
On the 18th of January 1980, Sandrine Le Goff, 11 years old, hears her dad having an argument with a man.
Right.
She's worried because he's getting very, very noisy. Noisier than normal arguments. So she decides to call her mom at work. Her mom works in a children's refuge thing. I don't really know exactly what it was.
Okay.
It's a bit like fostering, as far as I can understand from the descriptions, but I've never heard of this kind of system.
But it's something she wasn't like in a shop, so she could leave.
Well, the thing is, she had left for the day already.
Right. Oh, right. Okay. Oh, dear.
And it's 1980, so no mobile phone. So nobody can reach her.
Right.
She's just gone. Nobody knows where she is.
So no contacting her then. She's just...
No, nobody knows where she is.
She's in the wind at the moment.
Yes. All they know is she's no longer at work.
Mm-hmm.
So as her mum isn't there, the director of the center talks to Sandrine, the kid, and asks her why she needs to talk to her mum. After Sandrine describes the argument her dad is having, the director calls the nearest neighbor via phone book, which is in Carqueiranne, which is the name of the place, to ask him to go and have a look what's going on.
All right.
So the neighbor is called Monsieur Coutry, or Coutrix, depending on where the name comes from, and I don't know where it comes from. If it comes from Creuse around here, it would be Coutrix. If it comes from somewhere else, it could be Coutry. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
He leaves his house and goes to investigate. His wife is at home at the time. Several hours later, his wife is starting to get worried.
Oh my God, okay.
Because she's not back yet.
He shouldn't have picked up the phone.
It kind of sounds like that.
Yes. I'm worried.
She decides to also go to the house.
Oh my God, no, why are they not phone the police and get the police to go and check, love? Don't go yourself.
She goes.
Oh dear.
And there she finds her husband's body, as well as the little girl's body.
Oh, Christ on a bike.
She panics as you would, and calls the gendarmerie. They turn up very quickly, and they discover in the basement the body of Sandrine's father. So
we're talking a threefer then.
So that's a triple murder.
Yeah, oh no, that's just appalling.
In this affair, the gendarmes are confident that they have a good clue this time.
Right.
When Sandrine talked to the center's director, she mentions that her dad is having an argument with René's cousin. René is the male's name. So they have no idea who René is.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But at least she seemed to know who it was.
Okay.
So they start looking who could
who's
that be? Who's René and who's his cousin?
Yeah.
The rest, two people called René.
And surely in Marseille there must be one or two people called René.
Two people called René related to her family.
Yes,
yeah, of course, they're not going to arrest everybody called René in Marseille. That would be thousands of people. So they arrest two, and they discover that a certain Tommy Recco is the cousin of a René they arrested.
I see.
And they also learn that Tommy Recco knows Sandrine's father.
Oh.
So Tommy Recco is arrested on the 19th of January 1980.
So perhaps not that rehabilitated after all then, Tommy.
He denies any implication in the triple murder, of course. During the interrogation, the gendarme in charge leaves the room for a few minutes because he's called out, and is replaced by another one. In the small time the door is open, Tommy sees his cousin leaving the building.
Uh-oh.
So he's intrigued and worried, most likely, and asks the gendarme why his cousin was there.
Mm-hmm.
And the gendarme answers that she was there because of what Tommy did. And he just panics, and he confesses. He explains that he wanted to buy a gun from Sandrine's father, who he knew pretty well.
Uh-huh.
Sandrine's dad would have refused, according to him, to sell him a gun.
Right.
And Tommy lost it. So he shot the dad with a Smith & Wesson 38. Then leaving the house, he spotted Mr. Coutrix arriving, followed him in the house, and shot him in the head. And then as he was leaving, he found himself face to face with Sandrine.
Yeah.
And he thought, no witnesses, shot her in the head with a 38.
So rather than kind of like rehabilitating him, it seems to have turned him into just like an utter monster.
Well, he was kind of a cold-blooded killer in the first place in 1960, but by 1980, he has no problem killing 3 people in a house in a few minutes.
And one a little girl.
Yes. So Tommy's put in jail, again, pending trial. And the next day, again, he retracts his confession.
Of course he does.
Of course he does. You'd think that being a cold-blooded murderer, he'd not confess to anything, because that's kind of easy. You're arrested, you don't talk.
Yeah, you just get my lawyer.
Exactly, problem solved.
Avocat, s'il vous plaît.
Exactly. I have no idea why, but he confesses every time he's arrested and then retracts his confession. I guess he's dumb. The affair catches the eye of an investigating judge who's working on a completely different case. The 38 reminds him of something when he reads the case. A month earlier, in a supermarket in Béziers, so slightly more west on the coast, a supermarket was robbed. In the money room, where presumably they counted the money before it was sent to the bank, I assume that's what it was, 3 young checkout women had been chopped in the head, execution style.
Right.
They were all lying on the ground in a line, and all received a 38 caliber bullet in the back of the head.
But Tommy didn't have a gun at that point, though, did he? If Tommy didn't have a gun and he was going to get this gun,
we don't know where the 38 came from. We don't know if he came to the house with a 38 and wanted to buy another gun,
right?
Or if it's a gun he found on location.
Okay.
At the time, nobody knows.
Right.
At the time, the gendarmerie had no clue who had committed those murders in the supermarket. Because there were just no witnesses, absolutely nothing, no footprints, no fingerprints, absolutely nothing. Just 3 women lined up on the ground, bullet in the head. Also, they don't understand why it even happened, because if there was a robbery, they wouldn't have fought back. They're checkout women.
Yeah.
It's not in their interest to die for the supermarket who pays the minimum wage.
Well, exactly.
So they don't understand why they were killed, because it was utterly unnecessary. So it doesn't make it easier to investigate, because nobody had any reason to do that.
No, I mean, it's one of these ones that if you've got no witnesses, there's trying to solve it is kind of like a needle in a haystack.
So all they know is at the time 700,000 francs were stolen. It's about 345,000 euros today.
So what on earth were they doing with that? Must have been a big supermarket.
Well, that's probably the day's money.
Yeah.
Supermarkets make lots of money every day, hundreds of thousands of euros, if not millions. So that's just probably the end of the day, and that's all the money from the day.
But it must have been a big supermarket to make that much money.
Most likely, yet. It doesn't exist anymore, which was called Mammoth. It was the brand. Okay. Mammoth had merged with Zeno, I think, in the late 80s. I've only been in one because they didn't really exist.
So hang on a minute.
Supermarkets exist in areas.
Was there a Mammoth and a Géant at the same time, was there?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. But they didn't really exist around Paris, so I've never been to one. Okay. I think I've been to one once. It's like Super U didn't exist here. We won't find one in Paris. In Paris, it's the same thing.
Yeah, you get that in the States. You don't get, Piggly Wigglies are still on the go, but they're very, very regional. Mm-hmm, yeah. Even places like the States have regional stuff.
So the investigating judge has his interest peaked and he contacts the guy in charge of the triple murder. And they discover a similar ammo, and forensics tests also show that the 6 bullets probably all come from the same gun.
Right.
Tommy's 38.
Okay.
So the 3 on the supermarket, the 3 in the house, same gun.
So we're talking 6 now.
6 bullets, 6 dead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tommy is interrogated about the supermarket murders and denies everything. Again,
of course
as
he
usual.
does, yeah.
A few months later, in May 1980, a retired man turns up at the police station in Toulon. So now we're further east on the coast.
Mm-hmm.
And says that he saw the photo of Tommy in a newspaper. And he remembers that that person was at the supermarket in Béziers on the day it was robbed.
Is Tommy particularly distinctive looking?
Yes, there's a reason why he's called Geronimo. It's the press that called him Geronimo. He actually looks like the last of the Mohican.
Okay.
He looks like a native...
he looks like a Native American.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
Look at the website, you'll see. He does look like a cartoon character. Indian.
Right. He has the same thing that we have going on. You've got a hugely distinctive beard and glasses.
Yeah, essentially, yes.
And the white stripe, and I've got bright pink hair. So
when you saw him, you remembered him.
Yeah.
Because, yes, he was called Geronimo for a reason, and it was obviously why.
Right.
So the guy remembers him. And he says he spotted him because he was acting a bit suspiciously. He seemed to be checking the area. He was just standing, looking around.
Right.
And he thought, he's waiting for a friend.
Uh-huh.
And then a while later, he was still there, still watching what was going on in the supermarket. And he thought, that is fishy. And then he left because that was his shopping done. Also, he says that he had piercing blue eyes. He remembers that.
Didn't we have another case where somebody had particularly distinctive, hauntingly piercing eyes?
Can't remember, maybe.
Which was kind of weird.
So Tommy is interrogated again, and again denies being at the supermarket on that day. Of course, at the time, we're talking 1980, no CCTV.
No.
So you can't prove somebody was there. So the police organizes a lineup, and the retired man recognizes Tommy straight away. No need to sing, I want it that way. Tommy is arrested again for the supermarket robbery this time, and the murders in the supermarket on the 11th of 1980. So he's now in jail pending 2 trials.
Yep.
The gendarmerie organizes 2 reconstructions, one at the villa, one at the supermarket, but nothing tangible comes out of it because Tommy just refuses to talk. He just refuses to leave the car, refuses to say anything, so that doesn't help really. However, the gendarmerie learns that Tommy did a delivery for diving equipment at the supermarket.
Ah.
And they think that he used the opportunity to case the joint and decide that, that's a good place to rob. It's very easy.
Yeah.
I'll come back.
As a delivery guy, you get to see behind the scenes.
Exactly. And you see the security or lack of.
Do you know what? He was probably just walking past the cashier's room or something and saw massive amounts of cash.
Exactly. And no security whatsoever, no security guard, no nothing. So I thought, easy money, I'm coming back and I'll get that money. So that's what they think.
Oh, Tommy.
There's also a family thing going on there. While Tommy's awaiting multiple trials, the gendarmerie learns that one of his brothers, Antoine, one of the surviving ones, I guess, is accused of being part of the disappearance of 2 21-year-old young women in September 1981.
So is he left Corsica then?
That's Antoine, that's his brother.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, but has Antoine left?
No, Antoine is in Corsica.
All right.
It's only a rumor, but by 1982, it's loud enough that the gendarmes decide to investigate.
Okay.
So they arrest Antoine Recco on the 14th of August 1982, and like his brother, he denies everything. But as he's being interrogated, the gendarmerie discovers a swimming suit belonging to one of the missing women on his boat.
Nice.
And like his brother, he confesses to everything.
Right.
He says that he met the women and convinced them to come from the ride on his boat. When they refused his advances, he strangled them and then threw their bodies into the sea. To make sure that they went down, he put weights on their ankles.
Yeah, but bloat and float.
Yes, but he doesn't know that. He's not a professional body sinker guy.
He doesn't spend time watching hours and hours of true crime stuff.
So he's arrested and sent to jail pending trial.
Right.
And like his brother, The next day, he retracts his confession.
Oh, that seems to be a family thing.
Yeah, exactly. And denies having killed the women. So yeah, it's totally a family thing. They behave exactly in the same way. They kill people that they deny at first, then they confess, then they send to jail, and then they retract themselves. Every single time, everybody seems to do that in their family. So anyway, going back to Geronimo. The trial starts on the 6th of June 1983. And during trial, Tommy received the nickname Geronimo because of his haircut.
Uh-huh.
During the trial, the only people who maintain his innocence are a woman called Mama Recco. You can guess who that is. His mom.
Mm-hmm.
And his wife Chantal. As he's interrogated about the murders, because remember there's an interrogation during the trial, he denies having committed them, of course. However, at some point he admits that his lack of self-control is why he ended up killing his godfather 23 years earlier. So he kind of confesses again to the first murder.
That he retracted.
No, he went to prison for that one.
No, but he retracted his statement after
but it was proven that it was him because of his brother Pierre. So he went to prison for 14 years for that one. So he confesses to that one again.
Yes.
And he says it's because of his bad temper. Psychologists test him, obviously, and they declare him fully responsible for his actions and fit for trial.
Mm-hmm.
They confirm that his lack of self-control is what caused him to murder. They say, yeah, that dude is going to murder more. It's just the way he is.
Yeah, but the problem is, I mean, the first murder was incredibly violent. I mean, that whole smashing somebody's head in, I mean, that's total overkill. But the women from the checkouts, I mean, that was just pure, mafia.
The circumstances were different. Because on the beach, he was on his own. Only his brother was around. Whereas in a supermarket, he couldn't really stay too long.
I guess not. But
he had to be careful. So boom, 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 and he was gone.
I mean, I don't think it has anything to do with his temper. He's just a murderer. It has nothing to do with his temper. I totally have to disagree.
They didn't say temper. They said lack of self-control.
Lack of self-control, then yes, fair enough. But I don't think it's because he loses his temper.
No. It's just that he doesn't control himself. He has no moral sense, and he just kills people because that's convenient at the time.
I mean, no, it's like he's a homicidal maniac. I mean, that's why he kills.
Yeah.
To quote Clyde Bruckman from the Clyde Bruckman's Final Repose, an excellent episode of the X-Files. Yeah.
So on the 14th of June 1983, Tommy Recco is sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 18 years.
18 years
that's fairly standard here.
For 6 people.
Life in prison is 18 years here.
But surely you should be getting life in prison for each person you kill.
That doesn't exist here. You don't get cumulative sentences.
That seems ridiculous. Okay, but there you go.
You get a sentence per trial, essentially.
Right.
And if you're already sentenced to life in prison, you don't get another one. It's not like the US. So 18 years is standard.
Okay, that seems a little late.
So what happened to Antoine then, the brother?
Okay, yeah.
On the 7th of June 1986, he's sentenced to life in prison for the murder of the 2 tourist women.
Mm-hmm.
He appealed, and his sentence was revoked for technicality in January 1987.
I hate it when things fail because of technicalities. It really infuriates me.
Fortunately, he was sentenced again to life in prison in October 87. So he was out for nearly a year, for 10 months or 9 months or so. And then he's back to prison.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
So that's probably all the Recco boys either dead or in prison, I think, by 1987.
Yeah.
So good score. As Tommy is possibly freed from January 1988 because of his sentence, he tries to get paroled. Over time, he lodged 21 appeals for parole.
Simmer, dude.
And they were all denied.
Good.
Unsurprisingly, since he's convinced of 7 cold-blooded murders and has shown no remorse, nobody even considers letting him out.
Good.
It's just not going to happen.
No. More people would die if he...
the last appeal was in October 2021.
Right.
And it was denied on the 1st of February 2022.
Good.
So Tommy is still in prison.
Good.
And he's now the longest serving prisoner in France, having been there for over 40 years.
Wow.
So he's done 40 years of an 18-year sentence so far.
Fair enough. So I will take it back, French judicial system. That's fine. That's fine. But I think what today's story proves is you can take the boy out of Corsica, but you can't take Corsica out of the boy.